Hello, hi everybody. How are you doing today? I feel like it's been a really long time since I've done one of these, but it was literally last week. So I'm not sure why I'm feeling like that today, but today we're doing Winsor and Newton. We're swatching Winsor and Newton paints. And this is the first brand that I ever used along with Daniel Smith. I kind of started using them both at the same time upon the recommendation of the store person. What are their names? The clerk? What are they called? Okay. Anyways, the person at the art supply store was just like, yeah, these are great. I like them because da 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 da. I don't even remember if they were that familiar with watercolor. I think they were, but I just had never used it before, and I just went in and said like, hey, what should I use? I want to learn how to use watercolor. So I hadn't researched any brands yet, and let's move over to look at like what we have. I hadn't used any brands yet, and so this palette here I bought, and then ooh, look, a cat hair. I need tweezers to get that out. I mixed it with some Daniel Smith and Winsor and Newton. I don't think that there have been any I don't think there have been any Daniel Smith in this particular palette for a while, but I couldn't say for sure. So we're going to be doing a lot of swatching from tubes. Unfortunately, most of my tubes are kind of like used up. Like it's my most used, longest used watercolor paint. And so they might just be, anyways, there'll always probably be enough in a tube to do a swatch. So although I might use this for like something, these paints are pretty dirty and it would be hard to get like a super clean swatch. So we're going to be opening up, and this is going to be kind of loud. So if you're sensitive to noise, please, maybe turn down your volume a bit. Ah, that was louder than I expected. One of the cool things about Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith, and I haven't seen this with any other brands, that doesn't mean that they don't have it, I just haven't seen it, is that you can get it in stick form. And that's cheaper and kind of more sustainable in my opinion because you're not shipping water. But because these brands haven't been my most favorite anymore, I just haven't really bothered with that. I'll replace a color every so often if I need to. I was gonna dump it all out, and then I realized like that's gonna make the table really dirty. So we're just gonna dig through. And there are also things in here that are not Winsor & Newton. You know what? I forgot to make sure that we're actually live. Let me do that real quick. Let me just click over. And let's make sure. Yep, it says we're live. It always helps if there's someone in the chat to let me know that we're live if someone's chatting. That's impossible to do if you're not live. But nobody is chatting yet, so I have to use other means. Last week I had talked about some watercolors that I used that like were in unmarked pans, and this is one of them because these are my oldest ones. I do not know where these are from. I suspect that they're actually from this watercolor brand that's like more of a student grade, and I didn't like them that much. I like them in that they're kind of like gouache. So they were kind of cool to learn on because gouache is easier than watercolor, in my opinion. So we've got two colors here that are in brick form. Let me see if I can see the name of it. It's kind of in pieces. I think this is indigo, but it might be in down-thrown blue. Prussian blue, I think. Yeah, okay. So we've got a Prussian blue here, and I'm going to need to clean off my hand. We're going to take some water. And just put it right here on this rag. And then we're going to line these all up in the order that we want to do them. As per usual, I'm using these parameters. I'm writing down these things, and it's like pinned on the screen. This is one of the few brands I have white in. I have Chinese white. I don't use white watercolor most of the time. This is the same color, neutral tint. I love neutral tint in Winsor Newton. And so I bought a big tube of it at one point, I guess. I also love sepia, which looks like I need to get more of it. But I haven't updated any of my Winsor Newton colors in a really long time because I've been focusing on other brands. Not because I don't like Winsor Newton. I actually really like Winsor Newton, but they are a bit more expensive. And my goal is just to try different brands, or my goal has been to try different brands the last couple of years. Oh, look, actually I did buy these recently. I think I bought these 3 recently, and I think it was because they were on sale or something. Which you shouldn't buy things just because they're on sale. That is not a good move, but in my case, I would say Sennelier and Winsor Newton I find to be the most like watercolory watercolor. And I don't really know how to explain that other than they just behave like you think watercolor would. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a second and just get these in color order, or in the order that I want them to be swatched in, because I feel like that'll help me make the best decisions. Let's not put the browns next to the red because we want magenta next to the reds. Is this red? Or is this burnt? This is burnt sienna. Looks very red. Okay, red, orange. This is also one of the few brands I have orange in. I don't buy orange very often because you can mix it. However, it is hard to make like a super bright orange. And at this time, I think I was using a bright orange every so often in my art, and I'm not really doing that lately, and so just didn't keep up the habit. Are these the same color? Lemon yellow, Winsor Newton yellow. No, not the same color. And then this is probably Winsor yellow. Is that the same? The packaging looks a little different. It's actually really hard to use up watercolors because the little goes a long, long way. But I did manage to do it with my Winsor Newtons. Mostly just because they were the only brand I used for a long time other than Daniel Smith. Okay. Getting confused by the rainbow. There's more to take into consideration. Did I buy this twice? Nope, they're different. This one's lighter. There's a lot of things to consider when you're deciding which colors to put next to which, because you want to be able to compare the colors like against like, so you can decide which features of the watercolor are going to be best for you that day. So for example, maybe I have this color and I want it to be granulating though. Well, maybe this Viridian and this one are close enough that I could swap them out, but I decide to go with one or the other because one's granulating. Or I might go with one or the other because one's more translucent. So it's good to put them next to each other as much as possible to see. I feel like I already have paint on my hands, like quite a bit. Okay, we're not going to need that. How many do I usually fit on a page? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You can fit as many as 15, but we'll go with 14 on a side. For those of you who are new to this series, this is where I swatch all of my watercolors in this swatching book. I've so far done, I don't know, 3 or 4. And I'm doing it so that whenever I want to pick a color, they're all in one spot and I can quickly decide. Sorry, let me clean my hands off real quick because I'm just feeling like I'm contaminating everything. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, well, we don't have that many. Don't have that many colors. I don't really intend to get more. What would I get? I'm just thinking about, like, because this is a set that's not one of my most robust, I don't have that many colors. What colors would I add to this set? And I might want to leave a space to add that color in. I haven't done that with any of my other pages, but I am thinking about that right now. And the area that I'm missing is probably like neutrals, which I could just make. Browns I usually make because I'm not happy with how most browns turn out. I'm not happy with how browns turn out because I do a lot of portraits of dark-skinned people, and I prefer, if the portrait is smaller, for there not to be any granulation on the face. If it was a big portrait, it'd be fine to have some granulation because skin does have texture. So if you're blowing it up and you're making it like larger than life, some texture I think is fine. I just usually tend to paint smaller, and so I don't, that much texture on the face just looks distorting. So I will mix my own browns by mixing red, blue, and yellow usually. Sometimes I will do red, sometimes I'll do magenta and yellow and cyan. Do the CMYK method. Okay, is that even? I think we have an uneven number. I don't know. I just can't think of any that I would buy. But if I go to the art supply store and I stand there and I look at the Winsor & Newton aisle, I will be like, oh, I need all the colors. So, like, there's reality and then there's fantasy. So I'm going to take a picture right here because I actually have to go to the art supply store really soon because I want to get myself an easel, because hunched over like this and painting is not great for my neck. I have like a lot of neck issues. So I would like to be doing that less. Okay, these are going to move out of the way. You won't be able to see them because we are going to put the book and we're going to put the plate that we're going to be putting the colors into. So get a long hard look at the beautiful rainbow because it's going to disappear. I wish I could show you them all at the same time, but I don't have that many cameras yet. Maybe we can upgrade at some point. And I'm going to have to move the mic. Sorry, you're going to maybe hear some noise while I'm doing that. Okay. And I'm actually going to flip this upside down because I want to start with the reds. That's usually what I start with. It'll be easier if that's the closest thing to me for me to remember, like what order I'm in. Oh, I guess I'll go, wait, that doesn't make sense because, okay, we'll just go like this. This probably is making no sense to you. It's making perfect sense to me. We'll put them like that. No, that's not what we want. We want, the white can stay down there, but we're gonna put the browns next to the reds. And we're gonna put the blues on the bottom next to the blues because that makes the most sense to me. Here, let me show you in the book. So for example, if I'm choosing colors, it would make more sense for me to compare this color to this color. And they're not next to each other because of how I set them up. So I've learned like different ways I like my colors to be set up. That's one of the earlier ones that I did. I just lost my paintbrush. Hold on. I've learned through doing this series like how I do want things set up so that I can have the most information, the most accurate information, when I'm looking back at this swatching book, the more accurate, the better. And I forgot that we have these and we need to put them in. Prussian blue is very green. I'll go ahead and put white back up at the top there. So I'm going to put Prussian blue right next to the green. And we'll put this beautiful Indian yellow in between. I don't know which is going to be more like orangey. I can't tell. Just want to make sure that this is as clean as possible. I cleaned it in the sink a week or so ago. But let's just... It seems to have gotten contaminated somehow. I was using it to like hold my paintbrush in the last video. Okay. So you might actually get to see a few of the watercolors. But I don't think so. I think we're going to need to... Be our swatching card, actually. Let's use this nice big one. I have a song in my head. And I think it's Elton John. And I really want to sing it, but I'm kind of self-conscious about singing on video. Oh, I keep kicking my trash can too. Hold on. I rearranged my studio so that I could do, I'm working on changing my banner for my YouTube videos and maybe for like a Twitch channel. And so I've been working on the banner and I want to use the studio as a background, but like the banner's like thin and the studio is this. So you have to put different elements in different places. Anyways, I moved some of them back, but it's been a little bit confusing this morning because my studio's a bit out of order. So we're working on Winsor and Newton. I have to say, it's one of my favorite names because Winsor is a store I shopped at when I was a teen, and Newton sounds like you know, the guy in the apple. Okay, I need a clip. I'm going to steal it from this painting here. I have other clips, but I'd have to go digging for them. That's one thing I always forget to set up on the table is a clip to hold this paper down, and it's becoming more important as I get further into the book because I don't know why. You think it'd be easier, the book should be getting stretched out, but no, it's getting more awkward. All right, so the brand is Winsor and Newton, and our first pigment that we're looking at is quinacridone magenta. And it was literally probably the first paint that I bought. I probably bought this one. I probably bought some version of yellow and a blue. And it was probably that blue. No, I bought a bunch of Winsor Newtons. I remember what they told me. They said, I like Winsor and Newtons for base colors, but I like Daniel Smith to add in some convenience colors. That's what they said. So Quin magenta, and let's get out our magnifying glass. I don't know if we'll need it. PR121 is the pigment name. 122. I don't know why I said 1. Okay, it says light fastest, but like there's no information next to it. Oh, okay. It says light fastness, and then it's in French, and I don't know how to pronounce this name, but it looks like solide. I'm pronouncing it, I think, with a Spanish accent. À la lumière. 1. I think it's 1. So light fastness is 1, I would guess. And then we have a square. And we do not have a triangle. So we have a square and we have a 1. So our light fastness seems to be 1. It looks like it's transparent, but it doesn't tell if it is, it doesn't mention anything about granulation or if it's staining. So I found, like, through swatching all of them kind of one after the other, because I've swatched all my paints, I think. But when you swatch them one right after the other, you notice the discrepancies in how they label things. And in this case, so let me see if I can be able to get it so you can see it. Yeah, do you see right there? There's a square, and that's about it. The words next to it mention light fastness. So the discrepancies I found are that sometimes they'll mention granulation on some of them. And so that leads me to believe that some brands don't bother saying anything about granulation unless it granulates. Maybe it's the same with, like, staining. Like, they don't bother to mention whether or not it stains unless it does. Maybe that's what's happening. That's beautiful. Look at that beautiful magenta. I actually don't like magenta in my paintings because I was using the CMYK method for a long time to mix colors instead of the RG. No, not RG. Red. Well, basically red, blue, yellow. I wasn't using that method. I was using magenta, cyan, and yellow. The K is for black, I think. Why K is black, I don't know. But that's the method I was using for a long time. And because that was the method I was using, I oftentimes wouldn't mix well enough and I'd get magenta in my paintings. And it's not really my preferred pigment. And so I don't have a problem with it. I like all colors for the most part, but because I kept putting it in and I didn't want it there, like, I'd be frustrated to, like, realize, like, oh, I was in the zone and I didn't notice that I didn't mix the purple enough, or the magenta, sorry. And so I have learned to dislike it in my paintings, basically. Okay, our next color, and also cyan and yellow. Like, I don't want those things in my paintings anymore because they came into my paintings without my consent way too often. Okay, so this one we've got is Winsor Red, and the pigment number is PR254, and it would be interesting to look and see what 254 is, because, like, when you just call it the name of the brand instead of, like, what other companies usually call it, like Carmen or quinacridone red. Like, is this quinacridone red? I don't think so, because then why would they name magenta quinacridone magenta? But consistency, I've learned that just because it makes sense to me doesn't mean it would make sense to anybody else. So I don't know. I don't know what this means. I can shove the paintbrush in there. Okay, I got a little out. I would say with Winsor Newton paints, I've never had separation of the binder, ever, ever, ever. Probably because I don't think they use honey. Oh, oops, we need to write things down. Let's get this wet a little bit. And then know why I was writing quinacridone red. It's Winsor red. Winsor red. And we've got P. It's got to be R because it's a red color, but I can't really see it. 254. PR254. It looks like they don't even have anything about light fastness. Why? Why? Okay, magnifying glass. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's written on the front. Oh, they're made in France. Did that just make me like them a little bit more? If you know me, I have quite the, as a being a Francophile, yeah, I love French movies. I'm learning French very, very, very slowly. Okay, the thing says Permanence A on the front of the I don't have words. What is this thing? Permanence A. This is also Permanence A. I swear, I thought that these were a British company, which I like Britain too, but I like France just a little bit more. This one's made in France, but then it has like a UK address on it. That's so weird. Let's just pick up a few other and see if we can look for clues as to what information. Yeah, this one has light fastness information on it. And on the front it says Permanence A. You know, made in France, but with a London address. Yeah, they just don't tell the light fastness. I don't think Winsor & Newton is like at risk for not being light fast. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. So what we've got here is semi-transparent and no light fastness information. You can probably go online and get all the information. It's probably not hard to find. You can find it. And at some point when I'm done with all the swatching, maybe I'll go back. But right now, I am quite busy trying to design that. I guess it's a logo. Trying to design the banner. It's called the banner. Obviously, I do not have words today. Those of you who are new here, I sometimes struggle with memory issues. Or it's more like a recall. Sometimes I'll outright forget stuff, but it's usually, the memory's there. I just need some time and space to pull it out. The names of things is often not available to me. I'm trying to use all the pigment that I pushed out because I'm just going to clean this thing off and I don't want to waste it if I don't have to. I have made paintings, like I'll have picked up a palette and like put a bunch of paint on it and then I want to wash it off so use it for something else. I've literally made a painting just of that with that leftover paint just to not waste it. And that can be really fun actually. It can be fun because there's absolutely nothing tied to it. You don't care if it's good or not, and it's just kind of like you're just going a little bit wild, and you're not wasting materials, which is nice. Unless you consider practicing wasting, but who would think that? I moved my cat's bed onto this table for the photo shoot, for the studio photo shoot, and I just moved her bed back there, and like she loves her bed and she does not care where I put it and she always sits in it, but I think she's kind of irritated that I took it off of my desk where I normally sit. I think that's why she's not here right now, or she found somewhere warmer in the house than my studio, but I don't think that exists. I keep it pretty warm in here. Okay, so we've got Winsor Orange, and it is P062. PO62. And now this one doesn't have a square, but it has the light fastness of 1. It's so odd. They have all kinds of other like information, like that this is ASTM D-conformant, which I think has something to do with toxicity. There's some sort of a circle thing right here. They got arrow in a circle. Don't know what that is. Obviously the barcode. Yeah, it's got other information. I think that's on all watercolors, but I don't know why it doesn't want to tell us very much about it. I didn't put my dog out to go to the bathroom before I logged on today, so there is a chance I'm gonna have to leave, take a break, and go find her and tell her that she needs to have a potty break. Now, what I like about the anything named Winsor is it's just such the paint. It's just such the color that you would expect it to be. So Winsor red and Winsor orange both look very much like what I would expect in a Crayola box. I'd expect this color completely. And so it's kind of a good way to be like, if I was imagining the color, what color would it be? If I was imagining, somebody says orange, and I'm like, what's orange look like? This is the color I would imagine. Now, there's lots of different oranges. I'm just realizing I only have one red in this set. Which, if you've got magenta, I guess you don't need more, because you can make red out of magenta. Okay. The next one we've got is quinacridone gold. That might not rightly be in this spot. Like, I mean, let's open. Looks like it's a mix of 2 pigments, or I'm seeing binder here. I just said I've never seen binder come out. Maybe with this one I have. Let's go ahead and put it on. Yeah, binder just came out. Did you guys see that? I don't know if that's super... Looks like there's a bit of green in this. Because I think it's going to be one of the darker colors. You know what? Let's just watch it. Let's see what happens. Let's see how close to orange this is. You've got a lot of reflection. This one's a little bit funky because the binder came out. Maybe they do use some honey. I'm surprised. Yeah, we'll just put it next to orange. It's fine. It's not perfect. I mean, having them in that order isn't perfect, but it is what it is. I kind of wish I'd put it. I feel like it has more red than orange, than green. I thought it was more of a greenish. But yeah, I wish I'd put it. I wish I'd switched these two. I'm going to drink some water, and then we'll write that one down. Quinacridone gold. Yeah, so it's a mix of pigments. PR206. The R in the PR is red, which is why it looks a little bit more like the Winsor red. than the white has more red in it than the Winsor orange does. PV 19. Wow. That means violet. And PY 150. So basically the pigments that are in this are red, violet, and yellow, which isn't really what I was expecting. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything in particular, but when you hear gold, you know it's probably going to be a mixed pigment. And I would definitely say that Winsor & Newton is not a brand that like shies away from multi-pigments. The brand that we swatched, did we swatch it last time? Mission Gold, we haven't done that yet. That's like almost all single pigment. The brand we swatched last week, which is St. Petersburg, all of them, not all of them, but like the majority of them, and it was a really small set, were single pigment. And I've been talking about that in each of these live streams because it's something I was taught was valuable. And then there was like this comment in this one thread on, I don't know what it was about, something about paint. And the person was like, you know, single pigments are for the amateurs who don't know what they're doing. And the multi-pigments, a multi-pigmented paint, the convenience colors are for real artists who got things to do and can't spend all their time mixing the perfect color over and over. Enchanted Scott. You're right. Winsor & Newton are now made in France. They moved manufacturing out of the UK around 2010. They also manufacture in China and have a different formula apparently. Oh, interesting. Hi, Enchanted Scott. Welcome to today's live stream. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed to hear that. Do you know like what year they started manufacturing in China? Most of the ones I've seen so far have been manufactured in France. And like, is that a bad thing? If like, to me, I feel like France is up on their like good labor practices. Like, I don't feel like they are. I feel like the French are very much going to be like, number one, we're not poisoning the people working in the buildings. Number two, we're going to pay them fairly. Not because like France is better than anywhere else, but because the French people are very into like rioting or putting up like making noise if they don't feel like fair treatment's happening. So I don't know if how much that's true, because you know, some of what I've learned is from the movies, which can be a bit idealistic. Okay, so this one right here is what we're doing next. And it's got about the same amount of information. I'm not really getting anything more. This one says that it's got the UK address on it, and I don't know if like on the other paper it says like made in France or if it says made in China. I don't know. But this one does say light fastness too, which probably means it's not as good, like the light fastness. And it is called Indian Yellow. And it is PY 139, PO 62. It is, we've got very transparent, and number 2 for light fastness. I'm gonna see if we can just, first of all, I'm cleaning it right now. It's got some other colors at the end of it, and I want to see if I could just clean my hand and sort of the paint. Yes, that will put fuzzies on it, I know. That's beautiful. Not what I was expecting. It's very clear. Let's try to get a bunch of pigment to pile up in one place. Because if you do that, then you can see maybe the granulation that might be there, or if the pigment separates into different colors. I feel like this one isn't going to separate, but it might once it dries. When I used this in the tin, I just broke off a piece and like put it in the tin. I'll show you in a second. But I don't like normally do this. But it's efficient. I just saved some paint from being thrown away. I went to Comic-Con last weekend. Emerald City Comic-Con. I think it was my 4th time going to Comic-Con. Oh my gosh, look at this. Making it so dirty, and I'm gonna make the table dirty. Okay, you're gonna go back in your safe place. Okay, let's clean up this. How did it get to that state? And is my water already really yellow? Because I feel like I just made that really yellow. Or was there just a lot of yellow on the plate? On the plate. It's not a plate. The paper. Yeah, I think that there's some yellow in the water. I'm going to go clean my water out so that we get accurate swatches. If there's yellow in my water, that's not going to work out. Okay. So we're going to, before I go do that, Enchanted Scott. I love your name, by the way. Are you Scottish? Or are you living in Scotland or something like that? Or is your name Scott? No idea, but I will have a look when they started. I don't have a problem with them being in France. Probably better manufacturing processes there. You think better manufacturing processes than England? I don't have an opinion or like on difference between the two countries.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. Get me up, somewhere new, somewhere I can find myself. Oh, I feel so alive. As I reach out to the sky. I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day. Cause I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay. Cause I found my way. Cause I found my way. Cause I found my way. My way. Cause I found my way. My way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day. Cause I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay.
Okay, I'm back. I also washed my hands because I did not want to be contaminating. Did I do a good job? Making sure I'm not like missed anything. Enchanted Scott. Pigment production started in China in 1997. Yes, I'm Scottish and still living here. Oh, I've been to Scotland and I loved it. What part do you live in? Yeah, I was wondering where you were. Yeah, kitty cat. Okay, I'm glad you're okay. I didn't know where she was. Um, let's get back to what we were doing. I was calling. I called her while I was watching while I was changing the water and cleaning things up because I was like, you're like, she's very predictable. See, like she's normally in that. Oh, there we go. Sorry, she's normally in this little. It's actually a circle that a cat with a hole in it that a cat can go into, but she's never liked going into the hole. She likes to sit in it like we fold it in half, and she loves to sit in it. And pretty much wherever I put it, she'll sit in it. But it's kind of weird that she wasn't in it. I was a little concerned, like that she'd gotten stuck outside or something. I'm in the northeast, the bit where nobody goes, northeast. Oh, okay. I don't know, like, to be honest, like, I went to Edinburgh. I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. I've heard it's pronounced a lot of different ways, like Edinburgh. Edinburgh. Oh, great. Somebody just... Hold on. Noise. Hi, kitty. I'm going to pet you with the back of my hand so I don't contaminate. Between Aberdeen and Dundee. Cool. I don't know where those are, but I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up when we're done here. I honestly felt like Edinburgh, sorry again for pronouncing it wrong, was one of the most, like I just loved it there. About 100 or so miles north of Edinburgh. Okay. All right. That makes sense. 100 miles is still pretty far, but let's see, that would be like a 2-hour drive, right? I also did I was at the train station in the other main city, which I'm just having memory issues today, so it's not coming to me. And we tried to go to the Isle of Skye, but that didn't really work out. Went to the edge of Isle of Skye on this farm that was, oh my gosh, it's like eco-friendly is like what's popping in my head, but basically the farm had composting toilets. It had did it have running water? Did we shower while we were there? I know that it was more of a communal shower situation and a communal bathroom. Glasgow, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Yeah, so we were in Glasgow to pick up my son. So my son had been in Kenya and he'd been doing an internship there. He had just graduated high school and he was in Kenya, and I said, hey, do you want to go somewhere? And I'm just going to keep talking. I might as well do the talking head cam. Do you want to go to, where do you want to go in the world? I'll meet you there. You're done with your internship. You've been there. I think it was 3-ish months. And he's like, I would love to go to Scotland. And I said, great. We have family in UK. So me and my younger son visited the family in UK. And then we went up to Glasgow. We took a train to Glasgow from Birmingham, I think. And we met my older son in Glasgow. And then we made our way to Edinburgh. And it was so amazing. And interestingly, I loved my younger son at the time was mostly only interested in anything Harry Potter related. He loved London at the time, and he loved anything. We actually went on the train, Jacobite train, the one that's in the movies, and that was after Edinburgh. Edinburgh, and then we went over to try to get to the Isle of Skye. We did get up on the Jacobite train. He was so happy. But what I loved is that Edinburgh really looks and feels like the vibe you get from the Harry Potter movies, even though I think that the Harry Potter movies are technically set in England, not Scotland. Enchanted Scott. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm really glad to have visited your country, and I'm so excited to be talking to you because I absolutely love travel, and I love hearing from the people who are in the places that I've visited. Tell me, what's your world like? Like, do you live in a village? Oh, that's the Jacobite Express from Fort William to, I don't know how to say it, but Malag. That's my best guess, but I've been to both of those places. And I really liked, I think Fort William is the smaller town. It's like a town where people go hiking a lot, like crazy amount of hikers. And you guys have a really nice bookstore there and a really adorable coffee shop. And at the time, I could get both of my kids to like hang out with me at a coffee shop. Okay. The younger one was like 11, so it was more of a I don't have any choice but to be with you. But my I think he was like 19 at the time. My 19-year-old is just like cool to hang out. It was just so beautiful. It's a time I really miss because both my kids are much more independent now and much less interested in hanging out at anywhere in the world, much less Fort Williams. I think the older one would go with me to Scotland. The younger one is more he's more in the fierce independence era of his life, and I don't think he wants to go anywhere with me. He does. He's a very kind soul. Does he enjoy it? I don't know. Yeah, but the Jacobite Express was freaking awesome. Like, it was such a... Have you been on it? Have you been on the Jacobite? It's hard to get to. Like, I found it to be like, you know, when you watch on a show and someone's like in the Amazon, and they're in some sort of an Amazonian river, and they're trying to figure out like how to get to this like even more remote place than they already are. That's how I felt like trying to get to the Isle of Skye was. Like, I really misunderstood how difficult the transportation situation would be unless you had a car. If I had had a car, it would have been fine, but I did not. I just think of like anywhere in UK or Europe as being like really transport friendly, but I don't think that's true except in the big cities. Okay, so we've got Naples yellow, another one of my favorite yellows. Naples yellow. And this one is a single pigment, PBR? Am I reading this right, or is it a smudge? Why would it be R? Because BR I think is brown. And that's all this is. I guess it's kind of a brownish pigment. Okay. We're just going to write BR and 24 PB. Oops, I forgot the PB. I forgot the P, I mean. And light fastness is 1. We're going to put 1, and they don't tell us anything else. Enchanted Scott. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Yeah, Ben Nevis. Yeah, Ben Nevis is at Fort Williams. I live on a country estate in one of the lodge houses. It's a gatehouse for the castle. I have been on the steam train. Okay, wait a second. You live in a castle? Or you live in the gatehouse or a castle? That is really cool. Like, that is the thing of my little American childhood fantasies. Castles. I understand now that castles were really a military thing and have very little to do with fairies or anything whimsical, but I still have not ceased to love them. I think I really haven't been to too many castles. I did go to one in, believe it or not, like near Sherwood Forest, which to an American is also a fascination because Sherwood Forest does not sound like a real place to us, or at least to me. I didn't realize these places were real. I just thought they were fairy tales. And so I was visiting my nieces and my in-laws in the UK, and they took us to a castle one day, and then they took us to they took us to Sherwood Forest, and I was like, what? You're taking us where? It's not just called that. Wait, is that where Robin Hood really was at? It was such a trip. Not the castle, but on the estate at one of the gatehouses. I don't really, so the terminologies that you're using, like, I don't think I'm really familiar with them. Country estate. I can imagine what that means. I'm going to imagine that it's just like, because like where my husband grew up in Kenya, he was on an estate. That's what they say. Like when they're talking to each other, they're like, oh, what estate did you grow up in? What estate do you live in? That's how they delineate. I don't even know what to call it. So like I grew up in Southern California where everything is spread out, like so spread out. There's no villages. It's just one sprawling mass of suburbia. And so this whole concept of villages to me, kind of when I imagine a village, what I imagine is a bunch of trees and nothing, and then a place where people live, and then a bunch of trees and nothing. And I don't think that that's actually that common anymore anywhere in the world. I think usually there's just a bunch of people everywhere, and there's very little, like, just trees. So I'm having a hard time like visualizing for me what a country estate is. But what I'm gonna guess is like a planned community almost, like it's just like kind of insular and kind of maybe you have your own like markets in that area. Or do you mean is an estate more of like just that's where people live and then maybe there'd be a bunch of estates and then they'd all connect at a certain point with a village? I'll have to Google all that. And in a lodge house, so to me also all these terms are like, what does that mean? Because a lodge house here we would use for Native Americans, and a lodge house is like a specific type of building. A gatehouse, yeah, we don't have them. So like I'm enthralled. I'm like super curious about how you're. Do you have like a lot of community? What I liked about Scotland is that people were. Hold on, I need to put my phone on silent. I forgot to do that. People were super friendly. I even got invited to somebody's house. Like that never happens when I'm traveling. But somebody invited me to their house and I got to meet their family. It was really nice. They were so kind. I had met them at a health food store when I was picking up vitamins for my kid because he had a cold. Okay, let's continue the swatching. Winsor yellow. Sorry for the weird noises. Winsor yellow. Oh, we get to find out that it is semi-transparent. Now, this one here. Oh, gosh. I've just been talking with my talking head. I'm so sorry. I did this whole swatch. You didn't get to see. I really apologize. This one is definitely like more opaque. So even though it's not written here, I can tell that this is more translucent and this is more opaque, even though they're really similar colors. And so when I was going to choose my paints, depending on, is this going to be the base layer? Is this going to be the base layer? This won't make a great base layer because the pigments, the granules that make up the pigment are going to be more likely to sit on top of the paper. These ones are probably smaller and they're going to maybe more sink into the paper, into the crevices of the paper. This is a great base layer. This is a better top layer where you don't intend to put anything over it because it's more likely to slide around and be more unstable than this one. So like depending on like how I was planning this is how I would choose. Just as an example of like why these swatching books are so useful. Estate means one of two things. Council estate, which is loads of houses, or a housing estate, which is usually bought houses. Is council for you guys like government housing? Is that what that means? Or is a housing estate, which is usually bought homes? Okay, so like if you have a council house, is it not, you don't own it? Is that what you're saying? Like for us here, you have in the US, and this is West Coast, not East Coast. East Coast is different. But on the West Coast, typically you own a home. You might rent a home from somebody else who owns the home, but you're more likely to rent an apartment. You don't own apartments very often, except sometimes in the city. The country estates, which are in the country, and not a lot of people about. Okay, Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so I'm going to assume when you say that's correct, you're talking about like it's government housing. Okay, yeah. Cool. I think the person's house I went to, it might have been like a council housing, and it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Just because everything to me in Edinburgh is gorgeous. Oh, we already did the information for this. Right? No, I didn't finish writing. PY 154. Yes, social housing is what everyone in Europe would call them. Yeah. I think though, from like talking to my sister-in-law, your version of council housing or social housing is, I would say that it's not designed to, how do I say this nicely? A lot of the time, social housing in the US is designed to keep people where they're at. It's not designed to improve anyone's life. It is the basest of the basest. And that's not always true. In Seattle, there's a lot of tiny houses, and there's a lot of, like, there's some housing. First of all, Seattle, Pacific Northwest, like it's its own thing. Southern California, it's its own other thing. Southern California very much fits that description that I just said. The housing that is government, in any way government assisted, is designed to keep people where they're at, which may or may not be good. In Seattle, you are much more likely to have something that preserves a person's humanity. We have housing that is, I actually don't know that much about the housing in Seattle, but what I do know is that if my kid is half black, my younger son, and he's pretty dark skinned. He takes after dad in that arena more than me. As you can tell, I'm very pale. And he has been asked multiple times if he lives in the social housing, which I think, anyways, he learns about the social housing because he gets asked this a lot. So I have a good idea about like which areas are projects, and some of these housings are just gorgeous. Like some of them are old military housing, which I personally like because I've stayed in military housing in the past that was very like Spanish architecture, and then I've lived in two places that were former military housing, and they had big windows, and I don't know, they were well designed. Like, I don't know how great military housing is. I'm not in the military, and my partner's not in the military, so I don't know if, like, I haven't been in that many times, just like in my early 20s was. And it was really nice. So the military housing, the old military housing is like, I think it's social housing now, and it's beautiful, and it's on a lake. There's multiple places where you can live, and the lake is just right there. They're significantly closer to a lake than I am, and I am not in social housing. So I love that. I love so much that people who are probably having a hard time in some ways get to be so close to nature and get more, that's just like a level of respect. I think that is so necessary when you may or may not be able to afford many of the nicer things in life, but you get to be in like a beautiful place. I think that's just really respectful, and I really appreciate that has been one approach to, we have a huge housing problem in the Pacific Northwest. Huge. Enchanted Scott. Yeah, social housing is what everyone in Europe would call them. Oh yeah, truth. Yeah. I don't know what you're truthing here, but thank you for supporting my ramblings. So tell me, Enchanted Scott, are you an artist? Are you interested in watercolor? Like you're new to watercolor, or is it like a long love? You've been doing it for a long time. Sneha, love this chat convo. See how many terms need to be defined and broken down. Regular English words with different meanings in different countries. Language is fascinating. Cultural humanity and curiosity equals whatever that is. I guess we're giving each other double high fives. Yeah. Thank you, Sneha. I totally agree. Yeah, that's actually interesting. Like how much Enchanted Scott. I am an artist. I like to paint mushrooms. Really? That's literally what I was painting yesterday. Okay, we're gonna have to get me off task here a little bit. That's what I was painting yesterday. It's not done. I think I'm gonna bring out my colored pencils and add some highlights to it. Is mushrooms the only thing you paint, or do you paint some other things? And Sneha, what's the last thing that you painted or drew? Love it. Aw, thank you. Thank you. I'm okay with it. The mushroom's okay. I'm happier with it than I am with a lot of my paintings. Like the other unfinished one in the corner what I just did. Yeah, defining language. So like what you were saying, Sneha, defining language. Like it's so important, I think, especially in your intimate relationships, to really understand what it is that somebody else is imagining when they say anything. Like if you say, what do you imagine when you say fear? Like other people we all have different definitions. Cadmium-free lemon. And then the name for it in French is citron. Limon in Spanish. So cadmium, I don't know why they're telling us that it's cadmium-free lemon, because I don't really think lemon yellow is typically like, I don't think it's typically cadmium based. I don't know. Lemon. Enchanting Scott. I was testing my Derwent pencils drawing velvet shank mushrooms earlier today. I paint animals and botanical stuff mainly. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, same. Which you probably know if you've been on my channel before. Michelle Jane Orton. Is there a cadmium yellow there is a cadmium yellow that's very lemon yellow looking. Oh, okay. All right. I haven't seen that I can remember in any of my brands. Enchanted Scott. Oh, and standing stones too. Oh my gosh. We really have similar like subject matter that we paint. Feel free, if you're on this chat, to hook up your like Instagram or your website or whatever, so I can look at your stuff later. Anybody who's on here. But yeah, standing stones. So like standing stones, to me, that's like Stonehenge, right? Or like Outlander. Okay, question for you, Enchanted Scott. Have you watched Outlander? Did you like it? Do you feel well represented for it? I've read some of the books. I had to stop because it's a bit too violent for me, and I was upset when one of the characters got hurt that I loved. But and I watched a few of the TV series recently, but it's still a bit much for me, like the violence. That's one thing I learned when I was in Edinburgh. Wow. Like the Scottish history is like, I mean, everywhere the history is histories everywhere can be very violent, but man, like so much in Scotland. And you guys also like your ghosts. Like there were a lot of ghost stories, which was fine, except I was with an 11-year-old who wasn't, super into ghosts. So all this is telling me is that the light fastness is 1. It's not even telling me the pigment number. Seriously? Am I just missing it? Look, guys. I'm trying not to use the word guy because it's like not inclusive, but that is really how Californians refer to people in a gender neutral way. I just know it's not gender neutral in all. Did they put it somewhere else? Why would they do that? Come on, Winsor Newton. What are you doing? There's no pigment number. But it is light fastness 1. Okay, so we're just going to put 1 next to it. It's the same name on Instagram. I go to series 4 and got a bit bored, to be honest. And we love a ghost story. Okay, yeah. Yeah, tell me more. What does it scare you? Because for me, I'm actually like so much better now, but I was raised Catholic, and for Catholics, ghosts, anything supernatural is like bad. Bad, bad, bad. Except for like, I think if you were like visited by a saint or something, that should be okay. But like, I don't know. I just was terrified of anything supernatural growing up. But I feel like the Scottish embrace it and love it. Sneha, I don't think that this is something that we've talked about in your culture. Or even better, because I know you love your Korean dramas. Like, how's their feeling about ghosts? I'm watching Attorney Woo, and I bet we'll get into some weird ghost story stuff at some point, because I just feel like that would be a fun thing to solve. She's always solving complex legal matters. You love Attorney Woo? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I actually haven't watched that much of it. I think I'm on only like the 4th or 5th episode, which I am so happy about, because that means like a long time to get to watch it. No, they don't scare me. Okay, we're talking about ghosts here. And Ted Scott, no, they don't scare me. They are usually just reruns of a different time. Reruns of a different time. I've never thought of that. I've heard people describe them as like memories, but reruns of a different time sounds so much less intimidating than, you know, demon, which is like the Catholic perspective on anything. Actually, when my husband and I talk about it, everything's like a demon. Like, sorry. If we're talking about ghosts or something, it's always negative. It wouldn't just be like a person walking around. They like want to harm you in his world, in his worldview. Okay. This one has so much information on the back, but where? Okay. We've hit the jackpot of information. Really, there isn't a lot of information on the package of these. I'm being sarcastic. Cobalt. Turquoise. Cobalt turquoise light. That's important, because I also have cobalt turquoise dark. I guess at one point I decided to buy both of them, and I'm not really sure why, because it was a while ago, but I do tend to paint with turquoise a lot. I use it as a highlight. And then I also like to mix it with like a deep red or a deep brown. Sorry, a reddish brown. Let me show you. Like I would mix it with this color. And then I like to watch it like break up. What do you like? Hold on. No, please distract me, because honestly, these live streams are a lot more fun if people are chatting in the comments, even though it's probably worse for people who are watching it back. If they're like, I just want her to swatch it, but like you could literally fast forward. You're like, oh, she's just talking some more. Yeah, demons are something entirely different. I wouldn't mess with them. Anyways, I'll stop distracting you. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind if you distract me, please. Please do. Oh no, I just got some yellow in it. Because, yeah, like I was saying, it can be really boring. It's more efficient. The live streams I've had where nobody's here, it's certainly more efficient, and I get it done faster, which I actually have things I got to do today after this. So, you know, that should be my priority, but honestly, connection and community and talking about art and talking about things that we have in common and things we're interested in is why I'm doing the live streams in a lot of, or that's one of the reasons I'm doing them. There's other reasons, but that is definitely one of them, the sense of community. All right, everybody who's here, if you want to put it in the chat, like, what's your favorite watercolor brand? Just curious, because that is definitely something that, like, what's your favorite brand and why? Because that's something that is very pertinent to this whole swatching thing. Cobalt turquoise. Oh, this one isn't even written light. It's just cobalt turquoise. I thought I had deep. Nope. Okay. That's fine. Cobalt turquoise. And let's see what information we have. Oh, I forgot to write it for the other one. Because, you know, we're talking about ghosts. Oh, question. So Scottish people do believe in demons then, and you don't feel like they're a rerun. You feel like there's something else, like bad, and you won't mess with them. But like, okay, have you seen ghosts or demons? I don't remember any demon stories in the when I was in Edinburgh, like from any of the people I talked to. We went on a walking tour. There were a lot of ghost stories in that. PG 50. And we get a square, and that means semi-opaque. So this would be good as like a top color to do later when you're kind of done with your painting. And then I think the light fastness is one. And then cobalt turquoise regular. It doesn't say regular on the package. I'm just telling you, it's not light. It is made of two different pigments, PB28. So blue. So it's this one's base is green only, and it's a single pigment. But this one's base includes some blue and PB36. So they should look really different because this is multiple pigments and it is not green based. It's blue based. And light fastness 1, and then we've got our also very similar in that it is semi-opaque, which means its use is probably really similar unless one has much more dramatic granulation than the other. Then it's not, they're really not that different. Oh yeah, this is so much greener. And sorry, is it greener? There's a lot less yellow in it. It's so much more blue. Yes, there's more blue in it, but they both really read green. And I think that they're both granulating, although this one I suspect might be more granulating, the first one. So if you're going to use it as a mix to make skin tones, it might not work for you. Michelle, my current favorite combination of White Nights and Schminke. I have some Winsor and Newton, but I tend to forget to use them. Same. I don't know why, probably just because they were the first one that I ever used, and I have ADHD and get a dopamine fix from something that's new. Not always though. Sometimes I just get a dopamine fix from color, watercolor. It doesn't matter. Question for you. Why White Nights and Schminke? And what do you like about Schminke? Because I just tried them and I was thoroughly unimpressed. It like cracks. I'm looking behind me because I was working on a painting with them for a while. It cracks a lot. If like you have kind of like a one chance with it, you put it down and you need to make sure it's exactly where you want it, how you want it, or you're going to get all kinds of lines, which is super cool. It's a very watercolory look, but if you're trying to make something look more realistic, you're not going to get that. Also, what else? It like cracked in the pan. Like it like stuck on the pan and then broke off from the pan of like, and when I say pan, I mean like the tin. it just did weird things that I've never seen any other paint do. So tell me, what do you like about Schminke? Tell me, what do you like about White Nights? I have something I really like about White Nights, and I'll tell you after you've told me, if you're still here, and you tell me. Next we have Viridian. I love Viridian. I think it's such a beautiful color. Okay, this one is transparent. That's great because these two other green options that we have, I'm sorry, I have something on my eye. The other two green options that we have, or like turquoise-ish options that we have, are better for putting on top. They're not necessarily good for starting out a painting of watercolor where you'd kind of do a lot of layers, but I think the transparent one would be good for a base layer. Why am I saying this? Sorry, I'm talking about staining. Staining is what I'm talking about, and we're not getting any of that staining information. Staining, something that stains a lot is better for a base layer, because then it won't move. Once you like put anything else on top of it, the base layer won't move. It'll be stable. So something that's very staining is good for a base label, and then a base layer, and then it's something that is non-staining is good for a top layer. Although it doesn't really matter that much because it won't. Yeah, I don't know if this is... The cracking in the pan doesn't bother me. I'm used to it with dry gouache. Yeah, so like that's like my least favorite thing about gouache is that it cracks in the pan. I think it's annoying because it's just then a mess, and it's like I'm working with pastels or something. Tell me what... Well, for layers, I think Schminke works well. Oh, really? Okay, that's not been my experience so far, but I've only used it on one kind of paper, and I think it's the paper, or it could be the paper. Okay. The layers for shade? I don't know what that means, layers for shade. Could you explain that? Viridian. Okay. I haven't even opened this probably ever, and I'm getting binder on my hands. I'm gonna just clean it off real quick. I don't want to get it all over. I'm sure I have opened it or it wouldn't be leaking. So I take that back. I've used this before. But I was like, no binder issues with this. I was wrong. PG18, so this is a green base. And it is opaque, I mean translucent, like we were saying. And it is number 1 for light fastness. So, oh my gosh, did you hear that? What? Huh. Why? That has never happened to me. Okay, we're just getting binder coming out. Did I take this up a mountain? The pressure in it was seriously different than... Okay, it's just binder coming out. Okay, finally some paint. Wow, that was weird. Okay, it was loud, yeah. I'm trying to remember if I've taken this on a plane or in a car somewhere. It's a big old mess. Need to clean it. Like, oh, what is happening? Okay, I'm gonna be right back. And I'm not gonna touch anything, so you're not getting you're just gonna look at my cat for a few minutes. Hi. Okay, much better. I didn't want to touch the button to switch to another screen of any sort because I was afraid that I would get the button dirty with the Viridian. Okay, now let's swatch that Viridian. White Knight's colors are a lot of fun. Oh, okay, so you're interested in for shading in peace when I go to put shadows in. I have no idea what that means, for shading in peace. When I go to, I get putting shadows in. That makes sense to me. Shading in peace, though, I don't know what that means. You don't have to explain if you don't want to, but I am curious if you are interested in explaining what that means. Shading in peace. Do you mean in a piece? Do you just mean shading in a piece? Jessica, I'm still here. Hubby is in a call with me just now, so I'm just watching. Totally understand. No problem. So this one is much greener. These should have gone later. Sorry, you couldn't see. These would have been good to go later next to the blue. But it kind of doesn't matter because I'm going to be swatching more of the blue over here. So we will be able to kind of like, they'll be close enough to compare. Color, interestingly, means very, very little, except in the context of other colors. Like with the color of something is very significant when you can compare it to other colors. And that's something that I was reminded of recently when I started trying to make some different like color palettes that were like just different color palettes that I want to use. Because, you know, if you choose any particular color, sorry, in a piece. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Shading in a piece when you go to put shadows in. Okay, so let me scroll back. I can touch things now because my hands are cleaner. Let me just go back to what you were saying that I asked you to explain for shading in a piece. White Knights took a bit for me to get used to. Oh, I completely missed that you said that. They took a bit for you to get used to, but I love how much they cover and the colors. For layers, for shade, I think Shmiku works well. Okay. For shading when you go to put piece. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, interesting. So like White Knights to me, what I really like about them is that they have kind of a glowy quality, or at least like that has been my experience with them, the pieces that I've done. I'm thinking specifically about this snail piece that I did. The other thing I really like about them is I actually think they're really good for beginners because you put them somewhere and they kind of stay where they're at, but they don't have any weird, like I don't remember their edges being not, like, you know, in watercolor where you're painting, oh, okay, right here. The edges are really defined here, which is a super cool thing if you want it and not cool if you don't. And so I like that from what I remember. Oh, White Knights. Oh, no, wait. Are White Knights St. Petersburg or White Knights Mission Gold? I'm getting confused. I think I'm getting confused about their names. We're going to do one more down here. We're going to do Hooker's Green. What a lovely name. I think I researched why it's called Hooker's Green. I don't remember the answer, but it's funny nevertheless. Funny to me, at least. It is PY 110. And PG 36. You know what? I can answer my own question by looking back because we did. Oh, I didn't write down if St. Petersburg was White Knights. White Knights is St. Petersburg. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's what I did last week. Were you here? Were you here last week or have you watched that one? when I swatched the White Knights. Okay, nothing's coming out. Is it dried out? Like I said, these are my oldest watercolors, so. But I have been keeping them here, so they should be drying out less. I treated them nicer at the beginning than. They're sticky and yeah, they don't fade. White Knights. Oh, cool. I have White Knights. Swatched them last week, but I haven't done a huge amount of paintings with them. I didn't notice that they were sticky. They don't fade. That's good. For some reason, I was getting confused with the Korean watercolors that are Mission Gold. Mission Gold. What's the rest of the name? I don't remember. But I was thinking that's what we were talking about. They're the ones where you paint and they just kind of stay in one place. The St. Petersburg, I feel like they are the quintessential. I can't say the word. Quintessential. Nope. I'm not even more close. Hope you guys know what I mean. But like, they're like your basic watercolors. Like I feel like they're, when you think of watercolors, how they behave, what they're going to do is what you would expect. They're really similar, I think, to Winsor and Newton in that way. And what other brand was I saying is your basic watercolor? Like they just do what they're going to do and they do it well. Whereas like Daniel Smith, you've got a lot of fancy granulation. Schmincke, I think, has a lot of fancy granulation colors. Has anybody used Old Holland? I googled what is the best watercolor in the world, and Old Holland came up. And I was like, I've literally not heard of these. And I was literally in Holland, and I would have bought some to try them if I had known that was... I'm assuming they're made in Holland, but they could be made somewhere else. And I'm assuming that they'd be cheaper in Holland, but they could be just as expensive. I really don't know. Oh, this looks beautiful. I like the way this one came out. Sometimes I don't like how the swatches end up looking, but this is pretty. Uh-oh. Did I? Old Holland. I think those are actually Ganasai type watercolors. Okay, what does Ganasai mean? Is there actually names that delineate how watercolors work? Because I know that there are watercolors that are great for layering, and there are watercolors that are better for plein air or like doing it all at once. Is that term Ganasai? Is that, I don't know how, you can let me know how close I am to saying that correctly. Is that like that? How? I'm not, my words aren't coming. We're gonna move, we're done with this side, obviously, and we're gonna move these out of the way so that I can get to the blues and the browns. I've never heard of Ganasai watercolors. I don't know what that means. But I would love to hear if there's like some more predictable way to know which ones are going to do what. Because for me, all it came down to was just basically testing them because I couldn't find a lot of information about it. I'm going to clean off the table here so that you keep things clean. We're going to actually paint from the bottom here. Wait, no, because then my hand will get in it. But I feel like we have way too much room up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, actually not that much different. Okay, yeah, it'll be fine. I thought there was more. I think they're just uneven by 1, and I thought it was more. So we'll start with the white. Swatching white seems like pointless. They don't, Ganese is Japanese watercolors. They're more opaque. Dry, shiny due to the animal glue binder used. They don't act like Western watercolors. Oh, okay, so Old Holland. I'm going to assume that they're Dutch, but they are Japanese watercolors. And it sounds like I like Ganasai watercolors because I prefer them to be a little bit shiny. Just a little bit. Like, not like oil paint shiny. They don't act like Western watercolors. Okay, so then my guess is Mission Gold is a Ganasai watercolor. Because they just do dry shiny. Okay, so this is Chinese white. And PW4, light fastness 1. And do we have any other information? Yes, we have a square. And it is semi-opaque. Ganasai sounds almost like a different beast, because the goals for watercolor are to be translucent. That sounds a little bit like a gouache. This is a mess. This, I would expect that from titanium white, but this is like, it's all over my clothes. Let's see if we can see this color. Oh, we'll make some lines so that we can see how opaque it is. It tells us it's semi-opaque, but my experience with most watercolor that is white, it's not opaque at all. Like, you can see everything right through it, which is good if maybe you just want to tone down something. But hold on, let's let that stuff dry for a minute. I'm holding it over the heater. Michelle Norton, it can be watercolors I've seen who try Ganasai for the first time usually give them bad reviews because they expect them to work and mix in the same way, but they just don't. Oh, interesting. What are they mad about? Like, what are they expecting that doesn't happen? Because for me, I guess Mission Gold is like one of the first watercolors I used, and I thought they were great because they kind of stay where they're put, and they have kind of like this ethereal quality. So I didn't mind them at all. But I was new to the game. I was very new to watercolors. Oops, it picked up the green anyways. I tried to dry it. This is a waterproof ink, but if you don't give it time to dry, it's not going to dry. Okay, we're not getting a very good swatch. I messed it up. We'll swatch it again later. Or, you know what? We can just swatch right under it. And I don't think you can see it at all. Let's put a big glop of paint. Try to cover that up. I think it's dry now. Yeah, that was underwhelming as I expected. Okay, next we're gonna do sepia, which I'm kind of out of. So I'm just gonna like put the brush into the actual tube. I can't see the white, so I have to make sure. Oh, at least I can see it on the computer screen because there's a shine on it, but there's not a shine on it to me. Look at all this space we've dedicated to white. What? That seems really silly. Okay. It's extra small this time. PBK 5 or 6, I can't tell. PBK6. PR101. Light fastness 1. And it is definitely opaque. Cool. That would be useful. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough in here to even. It feels really dry. I don't think we're gonna get the intense opaque quality if I can't get enough pigment out to make any like conclusions. So I was telling you guys, I went to Comic-Con. I mentioned it at the beginning of the live stream. I went to Comic-Con and I went to see mostly Artist Alley. There are lots of, it's basically like an outdoor art show. People's have their booths set up, and it's a lot of fan art and a lot of original art too. Or obviously fan art can be original, but like a lot of the subject matter is fan based, and then there's a lot of artists. There's some writers there. They were in the same area this time. There, I managed to get out enough. And I think that when I go to the art supply store, I am going to buy another sepia in case I want to use these. That would be useful, unless there's another sepia somewhere that I don't remember, or if like I put it somewhere else. But it was really wonderful seeing the artwork of the different artists. I particularly love anything with Studio Ghibli, but there was only like 1 or 2 Studio Ghibli paintings this time, and I'm wondering if maybe they like cracked down. They didn't used to care, from my understanding. Like it was part of the culture to have fan art. That's what somebody told me. But I just only saw like 1 no face. And I didn't see, I might have saw a painting of a Totoro, but there was nobody whose entire like booth was for fan art. PBR7. So this is raw umber, and it is translucent and pretty light fast. Got a 1. Michelle, they're also not meant to be mixed, rather they should be layered. Pigments are usually not no and are pre-mixed. Interesting. So that makes kind of, you know, I've seen some artists that they really just do a lot of layering. It's so fascinating when you're producing these pigments, watercolor specifically. You just have these like different goals in mind. This is really dried out, and I'm really struggling to get it. Oh, too much came out. Go back in. Go back in. Go back in. Go back where you came from. No, that will be a huge waste. Please go back in. Go back in. No, okay. We're gonna put it in. I think that's the right one. It could be this one. We're gonna assume it's this one. When somebody's manufacturing watercolors, like the intention behind it of like how do you want these to behave is so interesting. I don't know if it's like that as much with any other No, I'm sure it's the same with any other medium. I guess I'm just most familiar with watercolor. I was going to say, I don't know if it's the same because I just haven't heard as much talk about it, but that does not, that's just a confirmation bias. That's just the world I'm in. I'm in the watercolor world. Also, I've read a lot about gouache, and I think gouache is also like, you can really get different results depending on what I'm picking it up from where I put it in the tray. Like I've heard there are opaque watercolors, and they're different than gouache or regular watercolors. The only brand I know, though, they were supposed to be a little bit stinky, and they also aren't light fast. So I've not bothered to look into them because as much as I would like to have something with those features, just because like gouache can be a little bit inconsistent, and like some of them are opaque, some of them aren't, whereas opaque watercolors are just like consistently the same opacity. I just don't care enough about the opacity that I would bother getting this like whole new medium when it doesn't have the other features that I like, that I prefer, like light fastness. I've definitely mixed my Mission Golds when I've used them. Usually I mix red and white to make like a skin tone for pale people such as myself. So we've got burnt umber. We've got, oh, this is a multi-pigments. Okay. PBR7. This one should have been closer to sepia. I think it's going to be darker. PBR7. PR101. PY42. Oh, no, I think this one might be darker, but it's also got a more reddish tint. Okay. This one's also almost empty. There's plenty of it in the pan, but like I said, the pan is kind of dirty, and I would have to really clean it to make this a fair swatch. And I don't want to do that because I like my pan to be a bit dirty. I think it's good for the colors to be a little bit muted most of the time, for the kind of vibe, ambiance that I want in my paintings. There is way too much water in this. Hold on. Let me see if I can pick up some more pure pigment to add right here. Sometimes, here's a trick that I've learned recently, and I don't know why this works, but if you have pigment and there's too much water in it and you just put it here, the water will drain out faster than the pigment most of the time. And although you'll leave some pigment on the cloth, mostly you'll leave water on the cloth, and then when you go to paint, there won't be quite as much water. I don't know why it works. Probably something to do with osmosis, but I am grateful that it works. Okay, next we're going to be doing burnt sienna. That is one of my favorite colors to wear. If you Google burnt sienna, though, you're not going to get any clothes with that color. Oh no. Do I have paint on me? Oh my gosh. You guys can't see it, but there's paint just on the table. It is the Viridian situation we had earlier. Let me clean that up. And then there's some dark blue or black. I don't think I have any black. Might be the Prussian blue crumbles right here. Okay, I've cleaned up the table. Huh. I knew that this one would be a little bit messier because the tubes are old and dried, but this is not to my liking. I'm not happy about this. Okay. I'm not as much of a purist when I'm doing a painting, but when I'm doing swatches, like I want them to be accurate. Oh, lots of pigment numbers here. PBR7, PR101, PY42. So it's like literally the same as burnt sienna. Because I just picked up burnt umber and put, that's why it's the same. Okay, let's try that again. PR101, so it's only that, the center one. Okay, and it is opaque, and it is, that's all we got. Oh no, we've got light fastness one. Okay. So I've been looking at Twitch lately, and people are on Twitch for like 5 hours at a time. Or longer. Okay, I don't think I've seen anything past 5 hours. And I'm really wondering how people like go that long without food. Okay, maybe 5 hours is fine, but like, and they probably go bathroom, they probably do have bathroom breaks. But I'm already on here 2 hours and I'm like, my neck hurts, my back hurts. Now, granted, I know I'm chronically ill, and some people aren't. And they're having a different experience than me. But yeah, I've been looking at Twitch because they do that. That's their thing, live streams, right? Like YouTube, that's not really YouTube's thing. Live streams is you can do it, but it's not the specialty. And so if you want to learn about live streams, Twitch is the place to go. I also probably going to be switching to, not switching, but like also doing live streams on Twitch because of that, because I've learned like the community over there is really cool. But it still fascinates me how long people go for. I don't think that would be me even on Twitch. Like I don't think I physically can sustain that. Neutral tint. Neutral tint is PB15. PBK6. PV19. And we have light fastness 2. So this is not very light fastness. This is not as light fast as some of the other ones, and that's not good in my opinion. I use it a lot, so I'm not happy to hear that. But it kind of depends on like what light fastness 2 means. Man, I should have set up the camera a little bit differently. There. You don't get to see the cat. If I move out of the way now. Sorry. What's cool about neutral tint is it gets so dark. It's not black, but it gets very dark. And you can mix a lot of very vibrant darks with it. And I would definitely call this a convenience color because you can make it, I guess. But it is really hard to mix anything this dark with red, blue, and yellow, which is normally how you would make. Okay, I don't understand. Okay, this I think is from the paintbrush. I guess the paintbrush got dirty. I'm making such a mess today. I'm so surprised how bad it's getting. I mean, I expected it to be a little messy, but I don't think that this can be blamed on, well, maybe. It might be able to be blamed on old tubes. I think I need a paper towel for this. I think I'm making it worse by using the rag. Now, doing this kind of thing, if you're doing a painting, not a great idea because you might mess up the binder that's in the paper, and that would be bad because then it won't behave the way you expect it to. Paper's super important in watercolor, probably more important than the paints. Okay, next we are doing purple. I only have one purple. I thought I had dioxazine purple in this set, but I'm not seeing it. I know I have it in a lot of my sets. When I say watercolor set, I don't necessarily mean that I bought it like as a set, but just in my collection. Winsor Violet. We've got PV, looks like 23. PV 23. And no light fastness information, but we do have that it is transparent. A little bit of binder came out. Let me show you. Putting it right there. Oops, too much water. That's pretty dark. The way the packaging advertises it, it looks like it would be a lot lighter. It looks kind of like dioxazine purple almost. I mean, it's not that dark, but it's close. Okay. I accidentally picked up some yellow there. Let's try again. Okay, 4 more. I'm losing steam here. I'm really tired. Winsor Blue, red shade. Transparent, PB 15, I think. I actually can't see it, but I've kind of got it memorized because it's the same across brands. Winsor Violet is dioxazine violet. They just call it Winsor. That makes sense. Right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for telling me that. Light fastness is 1. Then that means that I need to pull a little bit more out of here. Look how light they make the label though. That's what's throwing me off. Let's just add it directly. We'll blend it in a little bit. wouldn't recommend doing that on your watercolor paintings. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why I thought, oh, I thought I had this color. I thought I had dioxazine violet. I do. But I did pick it up because I thought it was this lighter color. Because I prefer that. Which you could make from this. You would just have to maybe mix in white. Mix in, just maybe make it really thin. Like make it like over here. I'm not really sure. Okay. I'm running out of space down there. I might apply directly to the paper. If I run out of space here, I might just put it directly on the paper. Oh, that's too much water. When I first bought my watercolors, the person at the store also explained to me the concept of cool versus warm colors and suggested I get a cool blue and a warm blue. And I don't know, I've always struggled with that. Now I'm starting to get it. But I don't know if everybody has the same definition on what's cool and what's warm. I think it's kind of made up. I mean, most things are made up, right? But I think that it's maybe not the best way to really understand things. I think that there might be methods of understanding that would be more practical. So this one is Winsor Blue Green shade. And this one could be used as cyan. In place of cyan, I believe. And we've got, it's still PB15, the same as the above. It's just probably, it's equally light fast and equally translucent. And we're gonna just put it directly on the page because there's just so little in here. Michelle, label colors are always sus. Elizabeth, is this your first time commenting here? I'm kind of bad with names, so I'm scrolling back. Bald Bear. I didn't know you still came on here, Bald Bear. First of all, Elizabeth, thank you for being here. Thank you for helping me in the moment understand these things, because honestly, I've got quite a busy medical appointments that I gotta attend to, and I'm not going to remember these questions that I have, and then I'll come at it in a couple of weeks and I'll be like, is this the same? Although, to be honest, looking up whether or not dioxazine purple, I think it's usually purple in the other brands. It's probably as easy as looking at PV23. And if I'm swatching a bunch of other purples, which I think I have in the past and will in the future, I guess it's not that hard to find out. So, Bald Bear, yeah, demons. There's not a huge amount of mention of it. I don't know how much of the chat you were listening to, but somebody is from Scotland, and in Scotland, they can be fans of ghosts, but apparently not demons. I've learned today, not demons. They don't like demons, just like you. Verschwenderen. Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but the end of it's Aaron. Verschwenderen. And I can pronounce Aaron. New subscriber here. Nice video. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, because I've been doing these lives for a while, but 12 o'clock was not a popular time, apparently. But there's a lot of people on here, and this makes it so fun for me to have, like, conversation. I'm sure it's anguish for people watching it back later. But as for me in the moment doing this live, it's a lot of fun to be chatting about all of the, what am I doing? I still need that. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it a lot. Cobalt blue. One of my favorite blues is cobalt blue. And do we not have a, oh, okay, we do have a big number. PB28. Light fastness 1. And then we've got a kind of a semi-transparent. Oh, and then like somebody wrote, oh yeah, so Michelle, label colors are always sus, right? I'm just like, one of them didn't even have the like the pigment name. I mean, it had the name. This one is hard to re-wet. Like it's the most difficult to re-wet out of all the paints that I've done. Just a heads up. I find Winsor & Newton paints are pretty consistent, but this one is not, like nothing's happening. I mean, yeah, things are happening. It's just taking time. Oh yeah, and the other thing I love about like the chat being more active is I learned so much from you all, like Ganesi. I'll go back and I'll look how to pronounce it, how to spell it. Watercolors, like I want to know more. I want to know if my mission golds. That's what we're doing next week, by the way, I think. I have to look at the schedule that I made for myself, but we'll be doing those next week. And if we are, I'll try to remember to do a little bit of research about Japanese style watercolors so that I can tell you what I learned about them. That's beautiful. I love that. I like to do the sky that color. And then last we have Prussian blue, which probably should, oh, right, because we're putting it next to green. Yeah, I forgot how we organized it. Prussian blue. And this is kind of messed up, so I can't get all the information. PB27. Not because they don't offer it, but because me getting the information would require maybe making a mess. Let's see if it's on the other one. I'm just going to swatch it right now though, and we'll check in a minute. Let's just clean it off a little bit. Elizabeth, love watching. Oh, also a new subscriber. Love to watch watercolors swatched and love Winsor & Newton paint. Hang on to that genuine Viridian. Winsor & Newton have stopped doing the real PG-18 version and swapped it for a hue. Oh, okay. What's it look like? Do you know? Do you have it? Because like that's, where is it? That's beautiful, right? But like I would say it might be good to have both because this is granulating. I wonder if the hue isn't. Which honestly for green, unless you're trying, of course you could be doing, I just think green's oftentimes used for landscapes, obviously, right? There's plenty of other things you could do with your green. You could do it as in your portrait somehow, right? But I would say that granulation in a green isn't the worst thing. Look, it's even more granulating than the cobalt turquoise. The hooker's green is definitely granulating. It separates the different colors. All these things are useful for foliage. I don't think you need your foliage to not be granulating. And if you're doing a portrait where there's like a lot of green in their skin, or if there's like a reflection on them. So for example, I'm wearing green. So there's a lot of, well, I have green toned skin, but like there's a reflection of green if you really look. Maybe I'll put it on the big screen in a minute and we'll explore that. Okay. I'm pretty clean for what we went through. Okay. And we have found that it is light fastness 1 and translucent. I really enjoyed this one for the color as well. I would still prefer the sky color be that one, but that's okay. I feel like the colors aren't super accurate. You guys watching, what do you think? I really struggled. I've really struggled with every single camera I've tried to use to get the best results for overhead views, and I'm not happy yet. But how are the colors for you all? Like, if you have these paints at home and you see it on your screen, because I know everyone's screen's a little different, but like how is it for you? How close are these to accurate? Also, it's not very bright, and I don't know why. Like, there's nothing I can do about that right now. Okay, so we're done here. Let me switch to the talking head for a second. Okay, so let's say that we can even pull up my shirt here. I don't know if you can see it, but right here there's a bit of green. Less green, more green. You can kind of see it on my lip too. Like the parts of my face that are really pale is where you can see it the most. But it's like, you might, if you're painting something and the subject's wearing something green, you don't necessarily want this granulating viridian to be here in this cheek area, or they're going to look really, the skin's going to look a lot more textured maybe than it really is. The hue is fairly accurate for me. It's just a bit more muted. Okay. Oh wait, let's start. You love watching. Don't have it. Love the granulation of the real one. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I like it. I like it too. But I think if you're saying that the other one doesn't have the granulation, I think I want to have both for their different uses. The new hue has a yellow ochre pigment mixed with phthalo green, I think. Okay, so it's not really a pure pigment. The hue is fairly accurate for me, just a little more muted. Okay, well, I'm glad it's accurate. I'm disappointed that it's not more bright for you, or it's too muted. I'll look into changing the settings on the camera and see if I can fix that. I have a desktop neck, so the colors are accurate though. Okay, yeah, well, I have a desktop neck as well. So I think we're working from the same system here. All right, I'm gonna log off, guys, because I've got quite a few things to do. I've had a lot of fun here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for those of you who are new subscribers. It means a lot to me. I love talking about watercolor. Those of you who are saying you like watching swatching, do you also like watching painting? Because I'm eventually gonna run out of things to swatch, and I might actually paint something once I'm like used to the audience interaction plus focusing on the painting and all of that goes on. The reds were slightly more muted. Other than that, they look pretty accurate. Oh, interesting. Here, let me switch over, and so I can compare. Oh, I know what I can do. So let me hold this up. Some of them aren't dry yet, and it'll change. But so we've got this camera here, and I think that it's more accurate in this camera. Maybe a bit brighter. Yeah, definitely more muted. And that's actually, I think I actually put on this camera up here, I think I made the settings so that it was not so bright, because when you're using this camera outside, which I have before, you want it to be a lot less bright. I just dropped my yellow. I can change it back. Yes, smaller camera spot on. Okay. Yeah, having this camera be the overhead, it's a much bigger camera. And I'm just not sure how to deal with that setup. That might require some more equipment purchases. So that might be a long-term goal, but maybe we'll get there. But it's good to know that it's more accurate. Enchanted Scott, thank you for being here. Thank you for reminding me about Scotland and telling me about it. I'd love to hear more about it at another time. Yeah, thank you all for being here. I'm going to log off now. So hopefully we'll see you guys next week, 12 o'clock, same time, or 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So hopefully we'll see you the same time next week. And hopefully I'll see you there. All right, bye.